I'll never forget that day at the airport. My mom was dying, stage 4 cancer, barely able to walk, and we'd booked the last bulkhead seat on the flight so she could stretch her legs and breathe a little easier. Then, this woman in a bright pink blazer stormed up to the gate agent, pointed straight at my mom, and demanded that seat. Not asked, demanded, like she owned the plane. Everyone froze. The gate area went dead silent, except for the boarding announcements echoing overhead. My mom, pale and fragile in her wheelchair, just looked down at her hands while this Karen started raising her voice, claiming she had priority status and that my mom didn't look that sick. I felt my blood boil instantly, but before I could even stand up, the pilot walked out of the jet bridge, still in his uniform, and asked what was going on. I thought he'd just smooth things over like they always do, but the second he heard Karen say, "That woman can sit in the back, I paid for comfort," something shifted in his face. He looked at my mom, then at Karen, and I swear the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Let me take you back to how it all started. My name's Alex, and 6 months ago, my mom got the diagnosis that no family ever wants to hear. The doctors gave her weeks, maybe a couple months if we were lucky. She'd always wanted to see the ocean one last time, said she missed the sound of waves since we moved inland when I was a kid. So I cashed in every favor, every mile, every dime I had to book us on a direct flight to the coast. Bulkhead seat, aisle, extra legroom, non-negotiable because her legs were swelling badly and she couldn't handle being cramped. We got to the airport early, checked in online, everything was perfect. Mom was having a good day. She even smiled when we passed security. I wheeled her to the gate, parked near the window so she could watch planes take off, and went to grab her a tea. That's when Karen appeared. I came back to see this woman, mid-50s, perfect bob haircut, designer handbag, the full entitled package, leaning over the gate counter, tapping her boarding pass like a weapon. The agent looked uncomfortable, glancing at my mom every few seconds. I heard Karen say, loud enough for half the gate to hear, "I'm Emerald Elite, and that seat was supposed to be held for upgrades. Why is it occupied by someone who clearly doesn't need it?" My mom's head snapped up. She never complained, never wanted pity, but I saw the hurt flash across her face. I rushed over and put my hand on her shoulder. "Mom, it's okay. We have the seat assigned." Karen turned, sized me up, then looked at my mom like she was an inconvenience. "Sweetie," she said to me, "I'm sure your mother would be fine in a regular seat. I have a bad knee. I need the space." Bad knee while standing perfectly straight in 4-inch heels. The gate agent tried to explain that the seat was medically pre-assigned, that it couldn't be changed without cause. Karen cut her off. "I am the cause. Call a supervisor." People started pulling out phones. A few muttered under their breath. My mom squeezed my hand and whispered, "Alex, let her have it. I don't want trouble." That almost broke me right there. My dying mother offering to give up her comfort so this stranger wouldn't throw a fit. But I wasn't backing down. I told the agent, calmly, "That seat is for a terminal patient. Doctor's note is in the file." Karen scoffed, actually scoffed, and said, "Everyone has a doctor's note these days." That's when the pilot stepped in. Captain Ramirez, his name tag read. Tall guy, maybe late 40s, looked like he'd seen everything. He'd apparently been watching from the jet bridge door. He walked straight up to Karen and asked very quietly, "Ma'am, did I just hear you say this passenger doesn't look sick enough for her assigned seat?" Karen straightened, flashing that fake smile they all have. "Captain, thank goodness. There's been a mix-up. I'm supposed to—" He cut her off with a raised hand. Then he turned to my mom. "Ma'am, are you comfortable? Do you need anything before we board?" My mom, voice barely above a whisper, said, "I'm okay, thank you." Captain Ramirez nodded, then looked back at Karen. His next words made my jaw drop. "Ma'am, I'm refusing you transport on this flight." The entire gate gasped. Karen blinked like she hadn't heard right. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," he said, voice steady but ice cold. "Your behavior is unacceptable, threatening, discriminatory, and disruptive. Under federal regulations and airline policy, I have the authority to deny boarding to any passenger who poses a risk to the safety or comfort of others. You're not flying today." Karen's face went from pink to purple. "You can't do that. I'm elite. I'll have your job." He didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled out his radio, spoke a few quiet words, and within minutes, 2 customer service supervisors and an airport police officer appeared. Karen started yelling about lawsuits, about calling corporate, about how she'll make sure everyone knows how this airline treats loyal customers. The captain just looked at her and said, "Feel free, but right now you need to leave this gate." I stood there stunned, holding my mom's hand while this nightmare unfolded in real time. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me couldn't believe it was happening. And part of me wondered, what kind of person acts like this towards a dying woman? As security escorted Karen away, she was still shouting about recording everything and going viral. The captain came over to us. He crouched down so he was eye level with my mom. "I'm very sorry you had to experience that," he said gently. "Your seat is safe, and if there's anything my crew can do to make your flight more comfortable, you just let us know." My mom teared up and managed a small smile. "Thank you, Captain. That means more than you know." We boarded first, of course. The flight attendants were extra kind, brought pillows, blankets, water before we even asked. But as I helped my mom settle into that bulkhead seat, watching her finally relax a little, I couldn't shake one burning question. Why did Karen fixate on that seat so obsessively? It wasn't just entitlement. There was something frantic in her eyes, something almost desperate beneath the rage. Little did I know, the real reason was about to come out, and it would shock everyone on that plane even more than the captain's decision. We settled into our seats. Mom in the bulkhead with her legs finally stretched out, me right next to her in the aisle. The flight attendants kept checking on us, bringing warm blankets and ginger ale without us even asking. Mom closed her eyes for a minute, looking peaceful for the first time in weeks. I thought the worst was over. Then the intercom crackled. Captain Ramirez's voice came on, calm but firm. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a slight delay before pushback. Please remain seated. We'll update you shortly." A few groans rippled through the cabin. I glanced out the window and saw ground crew still standing by the jet bridge talking into radios. Something was wrong. 10 minutes later, the forward galley curtain whipped open and 2 flight attendants marched down the aisle with a supervisor in a red blazer. They stopped at row 12, right in the middle of the plane. A woman stood up, same pink blazer, same perfect bob. Karen. Somehow she was on the flight. My stomach dropped. How? The captain had banned her. Security had escorted her away. But there she was, clutching a new boarding pass, smirking like she'd won. She didn't just sit quietly. Oh no. The second the supervisor walked away, she turned around in her seat and stared straight at my mom. Full-on staring. Not glancing, staring. Mom noticed, shifted uncomfortably, and pulled the blanket higher. I leaned forward. "Ma'am, please stop." Karen smiled that fake sweet smile. "I'm just making sure she's comfortable. Wouldn't want her to feel cramped." The guy next to her looked mortified and buried his face in his laptop. Whispers started spreading. Phones came out again. One passenger behind us muttered, "Isn't that the lady who got kicked off?" Karen heard it. She twisted around. "I was never kicked off. There was a misunderstanding. The captain apologized personally." Liar. I felt my face get hot. Mom grabbed my arm. "Alex, ignore her, please." But Karen wasn't done. She stood up during taxi delay when everyone's supposed to stay seated and walked straight to the forward galley. I watched her talk animatedly to a flight attendant, pointing toward our seats multiple times. The attendant's face went from polite to stone cold. She picked up the phone. Captain Ramirez appeared again, this time in the cabin. Passengers went silent. He walked straight to Karen, who was now back in her seat pretending to read a magazine. "Ma'am," he said quietly, but loud enough for the first 10 rows to hear, "I need you to come with me." Her head snapped up. Again? Captain, I was reassigned by customer service. I have the boarding pass right here. He didn't let her finish. That boarding pass is invalid. It was issued in error. You are not welcome on this aircraft. Her voice went up an octave. This is harassment. I'll sue the airline. I know my rights. By now, the entire plane was watching. A few people started slow clapping. Someone yelled, "Let her off!" Others joined in. The energy shifted from awkward to angry. Karen's face twisted. She grabbed her bag and tried to push past the captain toward the exit, but two more crew members blocked the aisle. She started yelling about discrimination, about how she'd been humiliated in front of everyone, and that her lawyer was already on the phone. Then she did something I'll never forget. She pointed at my mom and screamed, "That seat should be mine. I need it more than she does." The cabin erupted. Boos. Someone shouted, "Shame on you." A mom with two kids covered her children's ears. My own mom went completely white, tears rolling down her cheeks without a sound. Captain Ramirez didn't raise his voice once. He simply said, "Ma'am, you've now disturbed every passenger on this flight. Airport police are waiting at the gate. You can walk off or they can assist you." Karen looked around, realizing she'd lost the room completely. Her bravado cracked. For the first time, she looked scared, desperate. She started pleading, "Please, you don't understand. I have to be on this flight. It's urgent." The captain crossed his arms, "Then explain it to security." As two officers boarded and escorted her off, again, she kept glancing back at that bulkhead seat like it was the last lifeboat on the Titanic. People cheered when the door closed. The captain came on the intercom one last time. "Folks, thank you for your patience. We'll be underway shortly. And to the family in row 1, safe travels, and we've got you." Mom squeezed my hand, still shaking. I thought that was the end of it, finally. But during the flight, something strange happened. One of the flight attendants slipped me a folded note as she passed with the beverage cart. It wasn't from the crew. It was from a passenger in first class, a doctor who'd overheard everything at the gate. The note read, "I recognize that woman. She's been pulling this exact stunt on multiple flights this week. Always demands bulkhead, always causes a scene. But today was different. She was frantic. I think there's more to it." I showed it to Mom. She read it, frowned, then whispered, "Alex, when she was yelling the second time, did you see her necklace?" I hadn't. Mom continued, voice barely audible. "It was a chemo alert pendant, the kind chemo patients wear." My blood ran cold. Was Karen actually sick? Was this whole nightmare about her own fear, her own pain spilling out in the worst possible way? We landed safely. Mom got to hear the ocean that night, just like she wanted. But the question burned in my mind the entire trip. What was Karen really running from, or towards, that made her willing to destroy a dying woman's last comfortable moments? And trust me, the answer, when it finally came out days later, flipped everything I thought I knew about that day. 3 days after we landed, Mom was sitting on the beach in a wheelchair, blanket over her lap, listening to the waves she had dreamed about for months. She looked smaller than ever, but her smile was real. I kept checking my phone because the story had already gone viral. Someone at the gate filmed the whole thing, posted it with the caption, "Pilot bans Karen who bullied dying mom." Millions of views, thousands of comments calling her every name in the book. Then my phone buzzed with a private message from an unknown number. "I'm Karen. Please read this before you hate me forever." I almost deleted it, but something made me open the link she sent. It was a hospital discharge summary dated 2 days before our flight. Karen Marie Thompson, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 6 weeks to live. The same diagnosis my mom had. My hands started shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. She wrote, "I was trying to get to my daughter's wedding in California. She's my only child. She begged me to come, even though the doctors said I might not make it. Every flight I tried, I got bumped or delayed. The bulkhead was the only seat I could survive in. My pain was unbearable if my legs were bent. I saw your mom in the wheelchair and I panicked. I thought if I didn't get that seat, I would die before I saw my girl walk down the aisle. I became the monster I never wanted to be. I'm so sorry. I had no idea your mom was sick too. I just saw someone else getting what I desperately needed, and I lost my mind. I read it twice, then 3 times. The necklace Mom noticed, it wasn't jewelry. It was her own medical alert tag. She had been hiding the same terror we were living. I showed Mom the message. She read it slowly, tears falling onto the screen. When she finished, she didn't speak for a long time, just stared at the ocean. Finally, she whispered, "Call her back, Alex. Tell her I forgive her. Tell her to go see her daughter. Life is too short to carry this." I dialed the number. Karen answered on the first ring, voice cracked and small. I told her exactly what Mom said. She broke down sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. "I didn't deserve that," she kept saying. "I didn't deserve her forgiveness." I told her Mom was on the beach right now, listening to the waves she always wanted to hear. Karen cried harder. "I made it to the wedding. Barely. My daughter held me up during the vows." I told her everything that happened. She said I have to make it right. 2 weeks later, a package arrived at our hotel. Inside, a small wooden box, a handwritten letter from Karen's daughter, and a USB drive. The letter said, "My mom passed away 5 days ago. She asked me to send this to you. She recorded a video the night she got home from the wedding. She wanted your mom to have it." We plugged it in. Karen's face filled the screen, pale, thin, but smiling. "Hi, I don't know your name, but I know your son's name is Alex, and you're the bravest person I've ever hurt. I'm so sorry. I was scared and selfish, and I took my fear out on you. You didn't deserve any of it. Your son stood up for you the way I wish I had stood up for my own daughter sooner. I hope you're hearing the ocean right now. I hope every wave reminds you how strong you are. I'm not asking for forgiveness anymore. I just want you to know I'm at peace because of what you gave me. Thank you for teaching me what grace looks like, even when I didn't deserve it." Mom watched the whole thing without speaking. When it ended, she touched the screen where Karen's face had been. Then she looked at me and said the last words I ever heard her say clearly. "Alex, we're all just scared. Be kind anyway." She passed 2 days later, peacefully, with the sound of waves in the background and that little wooden box on her lap. I never hated Karen again. I understood her. I pitied her. And in the strangest way, I thanked her, because that horrible day at the gate taught me the one lesson Mom wanted me to carry forever. Everyone is fighting a battle you can't see, even the Karens, especially the Karens. So if you ever see someone acting like a monster on a plane, in a store, on the street, remember this story. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what are they really afraid of? Because the pilot didn't just ban her from the airline that day, he banned hate from our hearts. And Mom's last gift to the world was showing us how to forgive someone who tried to take her last comfortable seat and ended up giving us the biggest lesson of our lives instead. If you made it this far, thank you. Hit like if you've ever forgiven someone who didn't deserve it. Comment the name of the person you forgave. And subscribe, because life's too short for anything less than kindness.
If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Every single subscription motivates me to bring you even more exciting and dramatic HOA stories. And don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. I'll see you in the next story.